The galaxy had forgotten about Earth. 400 years ago, a survey ship had passed through the solar system. They had looked at the small blue planet and seen primitive creatures building mud houses and killing each other with sharp metal. They had written their report and moved on. They marked Earth as Category 7 in their records. This meant the species was either dead or too primitive to matter. No one had checked again. Why would they? The galaxy was vast. There were 12 spacefaring species in the Concord, and they had better things to do than watch primitive apes learn how to make fire. This was a mistake. Commander sat in his chair on the bridge of the Terran warship Indomitable. He was a tall man with hair at his temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. The ship hummed around him, engines ready for faster-than-light travel. "Commander," said Lieutenant from her station. She was young, with sharp eyes and quick hands on her controls. "We are receiving a distress signal from the system. It is using an old emergency code." Turned his chair toward her. "Do they know we exist?" "I do not think so, sir. Their records still list us as pre-industrial." A small smile crossed face. Humanity had spent the last 3 centuries building ships, colonizing planets, and preparing for the day they would meet their galactic neighbors. They had found old probes and learned their languages. They had studied their technology and improved upon it, but they had stayed quiet, watching, waiting. Now someone was dying, and waiting was no longer an option. "What does the signal say?" asked. Listen to her earpiece. Her face grew pale. "It is a research station. They say they are under attack by something called they are begging for help. They say," she paused, "they say everyone is dying." Stood up, set course for maximum speed. The Indomitable jumped through space and arrived in the system 20 minutes later. What they found was chaos. The research station was huge, a metal flower floating in the darkness of space, but parts of it were glowing orange and red. Fires burned inside. Ships floated nearby, broken and dead. Escape pods drifted without power. "Life signs?" asked. "Fewer than 300, reported Sergeant Han from the tactical station. He was a thick man with scars on his hands and a calm voice. The station was designed for 12,000. Felt his jaw tighten. "And the enemy?" "Thousands of them, sir, they are. Strange, thermal readings show they are hot, very hot. Some are over 900 degrees. Opened a channel to the station. For a moment, there was only static and screaming. Then a voice came through, speaking in the language that the Terran computers could translate. "Unknown vessel, please identify yourself. Please, if you can hear us, we need help. They have breached the inner levels. We cannot stop them. They burn everything they touch. Please." Looked at her commander, nodded. "Station, this is commander of the Terran Expeditionary Force. We are human. We are here to help." There was a long silence. When the voice came back, it was confused. "Human, our records show. Your species is primitive. You should not have space travel. You should not." "Your records are old," said simply. "We have ships now. We have soldiers. And we do not run from fire. Tell your people to gather in the safest location you have. We are coming to get you." The voice on the other end belonged to a named coordinator. He was the station's chief scientist, an old creature with 4 arms and skin like blue leather. He stood in the emergency shelter with the other survivors and tried to understand what was happening. Humans, the primitive apes from the edge of the galaxy. The ones who died from simple diseases and killed each other over patches of dirt. Those humans. He pulled up the ancient records on his tablet. Yes, there they were, small, weak, short-lived. They lived for less than a century. Their bodies could not handle temperature changes. They needed constant food and water. They were fragile in every way that mattered. And they were coming to fight felt something he had not felt in a long time. He was not sure if it was hope or pity, perhaps both. On the Indomitable, soldiers were preparing for battle. Private First Class checked her weapons for the 3rd time. She was small but fast, with hands that never shook. Beside her, Corporal O loaded extra ammunition into his pack. "You know this is probably a trap," said. "Probably," agreed. "And the things we are fighting are literally on fire." "I heard. And the aliens down there think we are primitive cave people." Smiled, it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator. "Then they are going to be very surprised." Commander's voice came over the speakers. "All soldiers prepare for deployment. They think we cannot do this. They think humans are weak. They think fire will stop us." He paused. "Let us show them what 400 years of evolution looks like. Let us show them what humanity has become." The soldiers cheered. The dropships launched. And for the first time in 400 years, humans announced themselves to the galaxy, not with words but with action. They flew straight toward the fire. The dropship shook as it entered the station's damaged docking bay. Sergeant Hand gripped the handle above his head and watched his soldiers, 12 men and women in heavy combat suits, each one trained for the worst conditions the universe could offer. Today, they would need every bit of that training. "Temperature outside is 400 degrees and rising," reported the pilot. "The fires are spreading fast. You will have maybe 30 minutes before the whole section becomes too hot for even your suits." Nodded. "Then we move fast, everyone helmets sealed, weapons ready. We go in hard and we do not stop until we reach the survivors." The door opened and heat rushed in like a living thing. Even through his suit could feel it pressing against him. The corridor beyond was orange with flames. Metal walls had started to melt. The air itself seemed to glow. Private was the first one out. She moved quickly, her rifle up and ready. The others followed in a tight formation. Their boots left prints in the softening metal floor. On the Indomitable, Lieutenant watched their helmet feeds on her screen. Beside her, an observer named had been connected to their communications. The young alien's 4 eyes were wide with shock. "They are walking through it," whispered. "The fire, they are walking through the fire." "Yes," said, "they are." "But how? The heat should kill them. Their bodies should fail. No species can survive direct exposure to temperatures this high. It is impossible." Thought about how to explain. She thought about Earth's history, the ice ages that had frozen the planet, the volcanoes that had blocked the sun, the diseases that had killed millions, the wars that had killed millions more. "Humans are hard to kill," she said simply. "We have had a lot of practice surviving." In the burning corridors, his team pushed forward. They found their first 3 minutes into the mission. The creature was horrible. It looked like an insect made of black glass, with too many legs and eyes that glowed like embers. Its body radiated heat so intense that the walls near it had started to bubble. It turned toward the humans and made a sound like screaming metal. Did not hesitate. She raised her plasma cutter and fired. The weapon was designed to cut through ship hulls. It went through the like it was made of paper. The creature fell, its body cracking as it cooled. "Contact down," reported. Her voice was calm, moving forward. More came, 5, then 10, then 20. The corridor became a war zone. Plasma fire lit up the darkness. The creatures screamed and died, but they kept coming. Corporal O took a hit to his shoulder. The impact knocked him backward, but his suit held. He got back up and kept shooting. "These things do not give up," he said through gritted teeth. "Neither do we," replied. Back on the station's emergency shelter, Coordinator watched the battle through a cracked screen. His 4 hands trembled. He had seen many things in his long life, but he had never seen anything like this. They were the terror of the galaxy. They had destroyed 17 worlds. They had killed billions. Every species that had faced them had either run or died. There was no third option. Except now there was. The humans did not run. They did not hide. They walked into the fire and killed everything in their way. Their movements were brutal and efficient. When one of them fell, another took their place. When their weapons overheated, they used their hands. Pulled up the old files again. The legends his grandmother had told him when he was young. Stories about a species from a death world at the edge of the galaxy. A species that had survived everything their planet threw at them. Predators, disasters, diseases, each other. The enduring ones, the old stories called them. A species too stubborn to die. These are them, said to himself. The legends are real. In the burning corridors, team reached a junction. The path to the survivors went left, but to the right, deeper in the fire, something large was moving. Sergeant said, her voice tight, I am reading something big, very big. Multiple heat signatures merged together. Checked his own sensors. She was right. Whatever was down there, it was massive, and it was coming toward them. We do not have time to fight it, decided. Left path. Everyone, double time. We grab the survivors and we get out before that thing reaches us. They ran. The heat grew worse with every step. Some of their suits began to show warning signs. The metal was starting to stress. Behind them, the massive creature let out a roar that shook the whole station. It was following them. What was that? Asked. I do not know, said, and I do not want to find out. Move faster. They found the survivors 10 minutes later. Nearly 300 huddled in a reinforced shelter. When the door opened and humans stepped through, the aliens screamed in fear. Wait, push through the crowd. Wait, do not be afraid, they are here to help us. They are the humans. A small child looked up at. The sergeant was covered in ash and burn marks. His suit was smoking. He looked like a demon from the old stories. But he knelt down slowly, making himself smaller, less scary. Hello, he said, his translator converting the words too. We are going to take you somewhere safe, but you need to be brave. Can you do that? The child looked at him for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. Stood up and looked at his team. All right, everyone grab as many as you can carry. We are leaving, now. Behind them, in the darkness of the burning station, the massive creature roared again. It was getting closer. The evacuation was chaos. Humans carried survivors on their backs, in their arms, however they could manage. The aliens were lighter than expected, their bones hollow like birds. Sergeant carried 2 children while their mother ran beside him, her 4 arms wrapped around a 3rd child. Keep moving, shouted, do not stop for anything. The massive creature behind them was getting closer. Its roars shook dust from the ceiling. The floor trembled with each of its steps. Whatever it was big enough to make the whole station vibrate. Private ran at the back of the group, her weapon pointed behind them. She saw shadows moving in the fire. More were coming from the sides, trying to cut them off. Contact left, she yelled and opened fire. Plasma bolts lit up the corridor. 2 fell. 3 more took their place. They were faster now, more desperate. They could sense that their prey was escaping. On the Indomitable, Commander watched everything through the helmet cameras. His jaw was tight. His hands gripped the arms of his chair. We need more soldiers down there, he said. Medical Officer Park looked up from her station. She was a quiet woman with steady hands and a mind like a computer. If we send more troops into that section, we risk losing them all. The heat levels are approaching critical. Any suit failure will mean instant death. I know the risks. Then you also know that we cannot afford to lose more people, not for aliens who thought we were extinct. Turned to look at her. His eyes were cold. We do not save people because they deserve it. We save them because that is who we are. Prepare the second wave. Hesitated, then nodded. Yes, Commander. Back in the burning station, Corporal found himself running beside the young scientist named. The alien was struggling to keep up. His species was not built for running. Here, said and grabbed by the arm, I will help you. Why? Gasped. Why are you doing this? We are strangers. We did not even know your species existed. We have nothing to offer you. Did not slow down. He half dragged, half carried through the smoke and heat. "You think we need a reason," said. "You were dying, we could help, that is enough." Stared at him with all four eyes. "But they are behind us. You could die here. Your whole team could die. For what? For people you do not know." "Yes. That is insane." Almost laughed. "Maybe, but that is what humans do. We run toward the screaming, not away from it. We always have." They reached a junction, called for a stop so people could catch their breath. The survivors were exhausted. Some were injured. One elderly had collapsed and was being carried by two soldiers. "How much farther?" asked into his radio. 200 meters to the docking bay," came the reply from the dropship pilot. "But Sergeant, I am reading something very bad on the sensors. That big thing chasing you, it is not one creature, it is three." Felt his stomach drop. 3 queens, they are the leaders of the hive. Each one can produce hundreds of soldiers. If they escape the station, they will spread to other worlds. Finished. I understand. He looked at his team. 12 soldiers, most of them wounded. Nearly 300 civilians who could not fight, and 3 massive creatures coming straight for them. The math was simple. If they ran, the queens would follow. They would catch the slow ones first. Then they would kill everyone else. And then they would find a way off the station and spread their plague to the rest of the galaxy. Unless someone stopped them. Said quietly, "Get the civilians to the ships, take everyone and go." Looked at him. "What about you?" "Someone needs to slow those things down, give you time to escape." "That is suicide." Smiled. It was a tired smile, but a real one. "Maybe, but we are human. We do not die easy." Before anyone could argue, a new voice came over the radio. It was Commander. "Sergeant, this is the Commander. I have heard your plan, and I am rejecting it." Frowned. "Sir, with respect, if we do not stop those queens." "I know what happens. That is why I am sending reinforcements. 40 more soldiers are deploying now. We will stop the queens together. No one is staying behind alone. That is an order." In the emergency shelter of the ship that had arrived to help with evacuation, Coordinator was listening to the human radio chatter. His translator struggled with some of the words, but he understood enough. The humans were not retreating. They were sending more soldiers, into the fire, into certain death. "Why?" he asked out loud. "Why would they do this?" A young human medic named Shin was treating wounded nearby. She heard his question and looked up. "Because giving up is not in our nature," she said simply. "We are afraid of death just like anyone else, but we are more afraid of running when people need us." "That is, I do not have words for that." Smiled. "Most species do not, but that is okay. You do not need to understand us, you just need to trust us." Back in the burning corridors, the reinforcements arrived. 40 soldiers in heavy suits, carrying weapons that glowed with plasma light. They formed a line across the corridor, facing the darkness where the queens were coming. Joined them. His suit was damaged, his body exhausted, but he was not leaving. "You should go with the civilians," said one of the new soldiers. "I started this," replied. "I will finish it." The roars of the queens grew louder. The walls began to shake. Heat waves rippled through the air like water. And then out of the fire they came. 3 massive creatures, each one the size of a small building. Their bodies burned with inner flame. Their eyes were like stars. Their mouths opened to reveal rows of teeth that glowed white-hot. The humans raised their weapons. "For Earth," said, and they opened fire. The battle was like nothing they had ever seen. 52 human soldiers stood against 3 queens. The creatures were massive, their bodies burning with temperatures that should have been impossible. When they moved, the air itself caught fire. When they roared, metal melted around them. And the humans did not run. Plasma bolts tore through the darkness. Explosions lit up the corridor like small suns. The first queen fell after 15 minutes of constant fire. Its death scream shattered windows 3 levels away. But the cost was high. 8 soldiers were down, some were dead, others were too wounded to fight. Their suits had failed and the heat had found them. Sergeant felt pain in his left side where plasma splash had gotten through a crack in his armor. His skin was burned. Every breath hurt, but he kept shooting. "Second target is weakening," someone yelled. The second queen was bleeding something that looked like liquid fire. It thrashed and screamed, killing 2 more soldiers with a sweep of its burning tail. Then a coordinated volley of plasma fire hit its head, and it went down. 2 queens dead, 1 remained. But the last queen was smarter than the others. Instead of fighting, it turned and ran deeper into the station, toward the reactor core. "It is heading for the power center." Medical Officer Park's voice came through the radio from the Indomitable. "If it reaches the reactor and causes a meltdown, the explosion will destroy everything within 2 light seconds. That includes us and all the evacuation ships." Commander's voice followed. "Someone needs to stop it now." Tried to stand, but his legs would not obey. The burns were too severe. He looked at his remaining soldiers. Most were in similar condition. They had given everything they had. Then a voice came through, calm and clear. "I will go." It was Specialist. She was one of the reinforcements, a young woman with short dark hair and eyes that showed no fear. She was the only one whose suit was still fully functional. "No," said. "The temperature near the reactor is over 1200 degrees. Your suit will not survive." "I know," replied, "but someone has to do it, and I am the only one who can." Before anyone could stop her, she was running. Her boots pounded against the melting floor. The heat grew worse with every step. Warning lights flashed inside her helmet, telling her that she was approaching the limits of what the suit could handle. She ignored them. On every ship in the area, people watched her helmet camera. The survivors huddled together, staring at screens that showed a single human running towards certain death. Coordinator held his breath. Found the queen in the reactor chamber. The creature had wrapped itself around the reactor core, its burning body pressed against the metal. It was trying to force an overload. In minutes, maybe seconds, it would succeed. Did not hesitate. She raised her weapon and fired. The queen screamed and turned toward her. One massive claw swung down and barely dodged. The impact cracked the floor beneath her feet. "Come on," whispered. "Come fight me instead." The queen lunged, rolled to the side and kept firing. Her plasma cutter carved lines of damage across the creature's body, but it was not enough. The queen was too big, too strong, too hot. At minute 3, her suit's outer layer started to fail. At minute 5, she could feel the heat pressing against her skin. At minute 8, her suit breached. Fire touched her, real fire with nothing between it and her body. The pain was beyond anything she had ever felt. Her skin blistered. Her lungs burned with every breath. She could smell her own flesh cooking. But she did not stop. "You think this is pain," she said through gritted teeth. "My ancestors crossed frozen wastelands. They climbed mountains without oxygen. They fought in trenches filled with poison gas. They survived bombs that could destroy cities." She drew her combat knife. It was a simple weapon, just metal and edge. The kind of tool humans had used for thousands of years. "We are the children of Earth," she said, "and we do not die easy." She jumped onto the queen's back. The creature thrashed, trying to throw her off. Its body burned her wherever it touched, but held on. She found the neural cluster at the base of the queen's skull, the weak point that all the briefings had mentioned. And she started stabbing. The queen screamed, it twisted and bucked. It slammed against walls, trying to crush her, but did not let go. She kept stabbing again and again, driving the knife deeper each time. At minute 10, the knife found something vital. At minute 11, the queen stopped moving. Slid off the creature's body and fell to the floor. Her suit was ruined. Her skin was covered in burns. She could barely see through the pain. But she was alive. "Target down," she whispered into her radio. "The reactor is safe." On the Indomitable, the bridge erupted in cheers. Commander closed his eyes and let out a breath he had been holding for too long. "Get a medical team down there," he ordered. "Now." Combat Medic Shin was the first to reach. She found the specialist lying in a pool of cooling blood, surrounded by the corpse of a creature that had terrified the galaxy. "Stay with me," said, pulling out medical supplies. "Stay with me." Looked up at her with eyes that were barely focused. "Did we win?" "Yes," said, working fast to stabilize her wounds. "Yes, we won." "Good," whispered, and then she lost consciousness. Worked for 20 minutes before the evacuation team arrived. They carried out of the reactor chamber on a stretcher. Her heart was still beating. Her brain was still working. Against all odds, she was still alive. They watched the humans carry their wounded hero past them. None of them spoke. There were no words in any language that could describe what they had just witnessed. A human had walked into temperatures that would kill any known species. She had fought a monster that had destroyed worlds, and she had won. The legends were true, but they had forgotten the most important part. Humans did not just endure. They triumphed. The news spread across the galaxy like fire. Within days, every species in the Conquered had heard the story. A forgotten species from a small blue planet had arrived at a burning station and killed 3 queens. They had walked through temperatures that should have been lethal. They had saved nearly 300 lives. They had done the impossible. Coordinator returned to Prime as a changed person. He stood before the High Council and told them everything he had witnessed. The humans, the fire, the soldier who had walked into 1200 degrees of heat and walked out again. "Our records were wrong," said. "We called them primitive, we called them weak, we called them extinct. We were fools." The council listened in silence. When finished, the eldest member spoke. "What do you recommend?" "Contact them immediately, before someone else does." 3 weeks later, a diplomatic fleet arrived in Earth's solar system. They expected to find a wounded world, still recovering from the violence that had marked human history. What they found shocked them. Earth was beautiful. Blue oceans sparkled under a yellow sun. Green continents spread across the surface like paintings. Cities glittered with lights. Ships moved between the planet and its moon with easy grace. And everywhere there was life. Ambassador met the delegation on a space station orbiting Earth. She was a small woman with hair and kind eyes. She smiled as she welcomed them aboard. "Thank you for coming," she said. "We have been waiting a long time for this moment." The lead diplomat, a tall creature named High Speaker, looked at her with all 6 of his eyes. "You knew we would come." "We hoped. Ever since we found your old survey probes, we wondered when you would return. We have been preparing." "Preparing for war." Laugh softly. "No, preparing for friendship. War is easy. Anyone can destroy. We wanted to show you that we can build as well." She led them on a tour of Earth. They saw cities where millions of people lived in peace. They saw farms that fed billions. They saw hospitals, schools, libraries. They saw children playing in parks under the warm sun. They also saw the memorials. "This is the Wall of Remembrance," explained as they stood before a massive structure covered in names. "Every war we have ever fought, every life we have lost, we keep their names here so we never forget." Why asked, "Why remember the pain?" Because pain teaches us. Every name on this wall is a reminder of what happens when we fail to understand each other. We do not hide from our past. We learn from it. Was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "Your species is very strange." "I know," said, "but strange is not the same as bad." On the medical ship orbiting the station, Specialist was slowly recovering. Her burns were healing, though the doctors said she would have scars for the rest of her life. Commander came to visit her. "How do you feel?" he asked. Looked at her bandaged hands, like I walked through fire and stabbed a monster to death. "Because you did." "I know, it still feels unreal." She looked up at him. "Was it worth it?" Considered the question. 300 lives saved, 3 queens killed, a new relationship with the conquered beginning. I would say yes. "But I almost died." "You almost died," agreed. "But you did not. And because you did not, other people lived. That is what being human means. We risk ourselves for others. We always have." Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, they were learning about humanity. They were reading the old legends with new eyes. They were realizing that the primitive species they had dismissed was something much more. "They called us ancient legends," said quietly. "Stories too impossible to be true. And now," she smiled despite the pain, "now they will call us something else." "What is that?" "Neighbors." The official records of the conquered were updated that week. Earth was moved from Category 7, extinct or stagnant, to Category 1, active spacefaring civilization. A note was added to the file, written by Coordinator himself. It read, "These beings are not what we expected. They are violent and peaceful. They are fragile and unbreakable. They are afraid of death but run toward danger anyway. I do not fully understand them. I am not sure anyone can, but I know this. When the fire came, they did not run. They walked into it, and they saved us all." On Earth, life continued as it always had. People went to work. Children went to school. Lovers held hands in parks. Old people told stories to young ones. But now, when they looked up at the stars, they knew they were not alone. And somewhere in the galaxy, other species were learning a simple truth. A truth that humans had known for thousands of years. The fire does not choose who survives. The survivors choose themselves. They choose to stand when others would fall. They choose to fight when others would flee. They choose to hope when others would despair. That is what the legends forgot. That is what they finally understood. Humans were not strong because they could not be killed. Humans were strong because they refused to die. And now, after 400 years of silence, they were ready to take their place among the stars. Not as legends. Not as myths. As humanity. The fire could not stop them. Nothing could.